Okay, so one day Jesus was teaching from Simon's boat, or Simon Peter's boat, in the water. And then he finished preaching and he was like, let your nets down. And Simon Peter was like, we've been fishing all night. Like, but if you say so. So he does. And then there was so many fish that they're pulling up that the nets began to break. And so Jesus says, yeah, from now on, you'll be a fisher of men. And so Peter and his homies, James and John, dropped everything and they started following Christ. So Jesus is still out healing people, and he comes across this man who is a leper, and the Lord just heals him, and he tells the man, go show and let them take a look at you, but don't tell nobody else that I healed you. And the dude was, okay, yo, everybody. And he told everybody. And so everybody's like, oh my gosh, they totally healed this. He totally healed this leper dude. Like, yo. And so now the crowds are like following Jesus. These dudes hear that there's a man named Jesus that's healing people, and they have a friend that's paralyzed, and he is unable to get, like, how are you going to get to Jesus? Everybody wants to be around him. Everybody's trying to touch him. Everybody's trying to heal him. So they decide, okay, we're going to cut the roof out the ceiling, and we're going to lower homeboy down. Also, that's the type of friends I need. Like, so they lower him down on the mat, and then he lives in front of Jesus, and Jesus says, your sins are forgiven. And then the Pharisees were there, and if you don't know anything about the Pharisees have an attitude about everything. They are just the biggest haters. We'll get into them later. So the Pharisees are mad, like, well, who is this person that think he can tell people that they're forgiven? And Jesus heard their thoughts, and he was like, could you imagine that though? Like, you had an internal thought, and somebody says, is it easier to say your sins are forgiven or get up and walk? And then when he said that, do you know that man picked up his mat and walked away? He was praising the Lord. And of course, the Pharisees were gagged and goofed because they're always out here looking goofy, being just nasty. So Jesus is hanging with the tax collectors. Tax collectors at that particular point in time, they were known for like stealing and being unlawful, and they would charge the people different rates, and they were schemers. They were like modern day scammers. And so they really didn't have a good reputation. And the fact that Jesus was hanging out with them and having dinner at their house was a problem for the Pharisees. There's the tax collector named Levi, and Jesus walks past Levi's like booth, and he is like, follow me. And so Levi leaves everything and he follows Jesus. And so there's a banquet. Levi's having a banquet, and they made Jesus the guest of honor. And then who has an attitude about it? You guessed it, the Pharisees. And they're like, he's eating with the sinners. Like, how is he over here doing? And so Jesus has to shut them down every time. He was like, yo, do healthy people need doctors? Oh, okay. Sick people do, right? Oh, okay, roger that. Silence. Oh, I can't stand them Pharisees.